Amazing, cool. So I'm going to do a end of week recap now, and then essentially I'm going to start filming for my Friday market breakdown. Essentially, yeah, I think there isn't really much to kind of report on. I mean, a lot of the trades were taken previously in this week, so yeah, there was some amazing opportunities. Honestly, I think this was one of the most phenomenal weeks in terms of analyzing structures playing out. I think it was definitely a really good week. Last week was a little bit slower for myself just because um I guess it was more so that the data was there. I was just looking for something else, and I definitely learned a lesson in there, which I was able to carry forward to this week and then capitalize using that knowledge I gained from advanced self-reviewing. So I'm going to jump straight into it now, and yeah, we're going to start with the DXY. DXY is pretty much shaped up. Looking at it on the weekly, we're still basically trading in this sort of zone here. However, at this point now, it's basically cancelled out my thesis for a middle section, which was looking like that. Perhaps maybe it could get a little bit more complicated. Of course, this hasn't closed yet, so I think it's very vital on how this daily candle closes and then the next day following. So, I think there's a lot of attention should be focused in this area now, just because if we do get sort of pull back up and then a flag, we could be still in that run that we forecasted originally. However, if we do start pushing lower and we start really selling off and committing, and then we create something like this, then for sure I'll definitely be looking at taking some short opportunities. So yeah, it's basically like that is how I'm looking at it. I mean, this is just basically a zone where big fish could just start closing off their sells, and then the price just starts moving back up. So I don't want to get caught into some sort of volatile sort of price action here, especially because we have a very impulsive movement. So it wouldn't be abnormal for price to push lower and then pull back in. So I think right now we just need to be extra patient and just see how price reacts. But of course, you know, we can still move to let's say 90% of this before we actually move up higher. So essentially, I am still, looking at that long as a possibility, but I definitely, wouldn't cross the sell off the table. We just need to wait for some structured form. Next one is Euro GBP. So Euro GBP was one that I think was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal for a pair. So there was two ways when it was getting to around about here. Um, Essentially, I saw it quite neutral because of the approach RO3. Essentially, either structured sort of a breakout, then look for a push down on the flag. But even so, with this approach, I was more so looking for push up and a flag or push down on a flag. And then behold, we actually did get a good sell off, but unfortunately, I wasn't monitoring it well enough to really capitalize on it, and I would have entered the market. I would have entered the market here. So just basically looking at it on this and basically taking this as its own little piece of price. Um, wasn't the easiest of trades though, because I mean it just really sold off. So I think for me that wasn't really the best trade. I definitely feel like this big range is definitely accumulating enough money for us to potentially look at a long. So there's some variations of things that could really play out, but I don't know if there's enough data for me to actually take an entry in here at the moment. I think what I would more so be looking at is this low and then seeing if we can actually get to that low. And then if we do get to the low, see how we react. If we get, sort of, um, if we get something like this, then, I think this, I will definitely be looking for the short. Um, but yeah, for now, I think I will just wait and evaluate till we get to the low, because then that run would be the really nice run that I would look for, especially if there is even an override, and I'll take that into consideration. So that would be more sort of a trade that I'll look for now on Euro GBP. Definitely feel that this particular pair um, has a feel to a head and shoulders here as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get something a little bit more steeper, and then we look at something like this, and then yeah, we just essentially come in and meet with that. Um, yeah, just have to wait and see, to be honest. But there's definitely some really good options on the table. I think also I'm just going to be extra patient with Euro GBP. I think there's going to be some better pairs shaping up as well at the moment, especially with the volatility we've seen on the DXY. So when I do go through my Friday, Saturday, Sunday market breakdown, I think I'm definitely going to be finding some really good instruments shaping up. The next one I'm looking at is Euro USD. So this one, I think, deep down, I always did think that the long was possible, but would definitely say that the 1, 2, 3 for the short was definitely a good play. I know a lot of people were looking at this trade over here, which in no means is a bad trade. I think it was certainly a very, very good trade, and I think that came with a lot of instinct as well, and market experience. Um, so yeah, essentially like this whole section here, and then just taking that as one little range, but it's not really the cleanest as well for myself. So I wouldn't have really been able to capitalize, especially on that impulse. And now it's just, how it's moving. Didn't really give me an entry. I was looking more so at the override, so the 1, 2, 3, but now moving this to the next point over here, I would like to see how price reacts to that zone because this could become something so much more larger and present so much more nice opportunity. So this would be something that I think now would be looked at for next week. But I wouldn't completely cross this off yet because if something dramatic does happen, for example, let's just say that we get the where is it? Um, Oh yeah, no, we've already had NFP. Yeah, just anything that kind of will bring in some volatility. So we might even get a push up and then a solid push down, and then looking on the daily, I wouldn't be surprised then if we do start pulling back into this low. But at the moment, it is looking pro bullish with the impulsive move. So I'm not going to be looking for any shorts immediately. I definitely think that if I'm going to be taking an entry now, it would definitely be this sort of entry, and I'll just move this for demonstration purposes. Is this? Um, I'll look for a push up, a push back down, and a flag. Not on the daily, more so probably on looking at it on the 4 hour for the approach. Don't really need to drill on anything lower, and then when we do sort of approach that section, I'll drill into the 1 hour and just kind of evaluate. But it doesn't seem like we're getting any sort of obvious ending structures within here. I would ideally be looking for a pattern within a pattern sort of ending structure, something that could, um, give me a little bit more to kind of work with. But at the moment, there isn't anything. So I need to let this materialize. Hopefully, we do see some sort of, you know, structure like this, and then we sell. That would be something of interest because then at least then I have something to go off by. But at the moment, it's pretty impulsive. Even though that this is overall corrective, I wouldn't look for the risk entry. I'd probably wait for the push down and flag at this point. But it is looking very bullish as well. So we have to look at the upside. If we do break through this and start creating a flag and we continue, then for sure the upside potential is definitely on the table. So breaking through here and how we're breaking this trend is extremely important. I think, the way we've broken this now could actually form as the beginning of a new trend. So that's something that I will also be keeping my eyes on. But at this moment in time, there's some confluences to look at a short in this area here. Especially if we look on the higher time frame, we can see that it kind of does meet up with this sort of previous low as well. That isn't so significant, but it was a previous pivot point in price. So yeah, price corrected twice there, so hopefully this can form as some sort of inflection point that can potentially create some structure here where we can actually reverse. But for now, I'm not really too bothered. I think Euro USD has a few variations of what could potentially happen, but more so if I'm going to get involved on a short push down on a flag, if I'm going to get involved on a long, I would look for something more larger, like a 4 hour structure for a flag to form with a 3 touch, and then I'll push up higher. So that's basically the gameplay for this one. The next one I'm looking at is Aussie US dollar. So Aussie US dollar was one I took a few trades on this week. I think what I was looking for was the push down on the flag. Likewise, we didn't seem to get it. We seem to just have extended, which is not really a problem. I think this was really a great trade as well in itself, 6.7%. So more than happy with at least being able to take something out of this market, because this happening, it doesn't really matter now because there wasn't really any sort of commitment on the way back down, especially with the way it went up to the 3rd touch. Um, I would have liked to see push down on a flag. This sort of 1 hour sort of candlestick evening star's just not enough for me, especially when it comes to a larger structure like this. I guess it's debatable for a lot of people, but I think with the way we've approached impulse, correction, continuation, forming into correction, there's a few possibilities. If we had a structured approach with a we did have a 1 2 3, but then it was just kind of very messy, and I thought, I don't want to just jump into this trade. Um, I think it was just a bit too risky in my opinion, so I left it out. And fortunately, I would have been tagged. Well, fortunately, I didn't take it because I would have been tagged out and taken a loss. So at the moment, we are trickling and just pushing higher. However, I think now looking at this, just need to evaluate how we're actually going to form if we just get a dramatic sell-off rejection. Um, so I want to see how the daily and the weekly closes, and I think that will help me evaluate if I want to be looking for potentially something larger, perhaps maybe the next inflection point where I'll look at something over here. And then is this an interest? Is this going to be some level of an interest for myself to get involved, or so I have to look at a few variations before I get involved in this, but I don't think there's much on Aussie USD for myself at the moment. Next one's Aussie Swiss. Aussie Swiss is similar to Aussie US dollar. I don't really have much to really kind of say that I'm going to take on this. There was a trade here that was a mistrade for myself. Essentially, I think that was basically the only trade, but I think because it was in this price, and I think I mentioned before, I wouldn't have taken it. Perhaps maybe this one here, but then I'm just kind of counting the lows. So I didn't want to take that into this low and then potentially have a pullback. Even though we did push lower, we pulled up higher. So at this point, I think we're in impulse correction, impulse correction. So I think in terms of where we are now, if we don't get a push up, then I don't think. Well, yeah, I think if I was going to be getting involved, I would have looked for something a little bit more flatter. I think this angle is not really something I want to get involved in. So yeah, I'm not going to take any trades on this particular pair either. But it was a good pair to monitor. It just was very messy, wasn't easy to catch an entry, and I think I think because of all this messy nature on the left, I probably learned a lesson here as well that um, you know it's going to be you have to kind of just map in the higher probability areas, and I think I definitely had my sort of areas marked in well. It's just I should have been focusing more on the high time frame than the lower time frame, because there was definitely opportunities in there, but because I was looking on the 1 hour, I think I saw the mess and I thought I got a bit put off by it. But when I go onto the higher time frame and I look at it, it's not as messy actually. In fact, if it is going there, then it will be a very good area to actually be entering in the market. But even so, I don't think I'll feel comfortable at this point in time getting involved in those sort of positions. So that would probably help me with my future forecast as well. And then when I'm picking pairs, at least I can be extra aware that some particular pairs, if it's way too messy, I may not want to get involved. And only because of during the moment in time, I probably would not be keen on taking a position. So yeah, I guess there's nothing bad about this one. It's not really something I feel comfortable with. The next one I've got is Aussie and New Zealand dollar. So Aussie New Zealand dollar is a little bit impulsive as well. I think we're seeing that across the board of all the pairs. So it was one I capitalized on. Unfortunately, I got tagged out a little bit too early as well. Oh no, I think this was a mistrade actually. Yeah, this one was the mistrade for me. So just kind of looking at it on the 5 minute for refinement, I had this 1 2 3 forecasted, and then we had a push down, and then on the 15 minute I could see that it got a little bit corrective over here, but we did break this low and then we started pulling up. So I thought, oh, if we come up for this third touch, this could be great. Then I kind of just went away from the screens. I think I went to walk my dogs or something, and then I just kind of forgot about it. But it's not really a big deal. If I took it, it would have been literally right here. I would have seen this sort of refinement. We came in, tapped in the third touch. We had a rejection. I would have slapped on an entry around about 13 pips, covering the high, getting involved, and then this would have been the trade. I would have been involved, and then I would have probably been tagged out around about there. So I would have made about 1.6, probably, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, about 1.6 I would have made. And yeah, that would have been a trade. So that's it. I think at the moment in time, we started pushing up impulsively. There's not really much else that I can really say. I was hoping this would be a larger flag to go lower, but unfortunately we pulled up. We had this extra scoop, so I thought, oh, perhaps maybe one, two, three, four. We didn't get the push down and commitment I was looking for. We continued trickling. Then I thought possibly in ascending. There's a few variations of things, but unfortunately, just it's not really giving me what I'm looking for at the moment. So I'll leave that one to the side, let it kind of just show its cards. Go back to the high time frame, and then I think I look at this and say this is probably the nearest inflection point at the moment. So drilling down a little bit, just going to wait patiently, but there's nothing significant about these areas. I can't see any sort of structures that pop out to me. So at the moment, not really much to report on Aussie New Zealand, but this could be even better though because we have the near miss to the low. So when we do start to actually get that sort of rejection from one of these inflection points that we'll mark on, um, we may actually be able to get into a really good run to this low. So that's something that I am looking forward to. Silver, monster of a pair, honestly. Took two break evens, is what it is. Wasn't able to capitalize on it just yet, but it is seeming like it's basically in that level now where we could be going. So essentially, we had this, could mark it on like that if you want. Um, and then, yeah, so at the moment, what I'm actually looking at is what's happening. So if we just kind of take this as a little bit of price and we look at it breaking, we are actually in the middle of um, a really good trade, to be honest. Let's just clear this off for simplicity. And we don't really need this leading up structure. So yeah, so essentially we're just looking at this. So we had the override, we broke the override, we pushed higher. Okay, then we had our next override section, we went above that, and then we had this section here. We did meet with this, but not too bothered about that. I'm more interested in this one, two, three, and then we have an ending structure where we correctively pushed lower and then pushed up, correctively squeezed, and then created this sort of ascending within here. Now, what I'm interested to see is two things. Does this form as the first flag to the short and could be taken ever so much like that? Probably could be squeezed a little bit tighter, but would this be the first flag to go short? Or is this going to be a sort of trickle down 90% pull back up scoop double top push down M star sort of feel to it? So there's a few variations of what I think could happen, but I think the real good play is if we get a solid push down, we break this low, we start creating a flag, we're in for really good trades to the way down. So there's going to be an abundance of opportunity on this trade anyway. I think silver's definitely got huge potential. Just definitely need to keep your eyes on it. It's one that I think is potentially going to shape up today for another push. It does look like we are accumulating some price here. I think protecting yourself is probably the most important part anyway. So um, I don't know if this is the sort of best trade in terms of a risk entry, but definitely reduce risk entry. Just would have to analyze it properly to make sure that I see it. But yeah, for now, I think there's not really a trade for me on silver. I would wait more so for something to shape up and then have a little bit more structure to it. But that definitely is starting to look really nice. Cool. I'm going to jump into my wildcards. So wildcards, I don't really have much to report on. There was one trade here, and the trade was basically New Zealand Swiss. Basically, yeah, Tuesday trade came in on the hourly, had the one, two, three, had this sort of push down, took that as the sort of override. And then, yeah, that would have been the trade, and I probably would have got out around about here, so about 5% trade for me. Um, no other scales there, but yeah, in terms of that trade, looked really good. Would have taken it. By the time I saw it, it was somewhere around about here, and then I couldn't seem to get an entry in there, so I left it. And I had other loads of other trades on, so I was kind of like, you know, I don't want to over trade and add too much on because then I'm monitoring like 4 or 5 trades and well, 3 trades, 2 trades. It just wouldn't be sort of something that I wanted to do. I was more than happy with what I had. I was in profit. Just fully focused on those, manage those, and see if I could get more scaling opportunities if they did present themselves. And I was able to with I think it was Euro GBP. Um, so yeah, so it was a good week, but yeah, not anything really to say on this one. I think right now, if we're going to be looking at this, I'm more so thinking that this is a larger flag now, so something like this could form, and then I would look for sort of just that commitment a little bit lower, and then back up here, and then look for a sell, and that's how I'll take that. So New Zealand Swiss. The next one is CAD Swiss. CAD Swiss is pretty cool. We had this really good sell off. There was that line in the sand that I was looking at over here. We had the sell off, then we create the hover. Didn't get the three touch on the hover with the retest for the line in the sand. Wasn't really much required because we did have the override. Um, I think it was just, yeah, it was just one of them ones where I just wasn't in sync with this one, you know. It was quite hard, to be fair, for me to catch because that was the only entry, that second touch, but then I didn't really see that as a significant point. I was more so looking at the line in the sand. Yeah, there was just so much happening, and I couldn't catch a trade in here. I really wanted to catch a trade here. Um, Missed this sort of structure here. I guess, it is what it is. It was just too trickling, and I thought, don't want to get into that. Then I saw this sort of, there was no 1, 2, 3, there was no leading structures in here. Got messy and then just sold off. Would have been amazing if I caught it. Unfortunately, it just wasn't there, so I just had to watch it run. I guess, in a different sort of frame of time, I might have been able to see something, but I was more so looking for this. And then, 1, 2, 3. Didn't get it. Just sold off. It is what it is. So that's CAD Swiss at the moment. I'm just looking at it, basically getting to potentially 90% that low, this inflection point here, create a larger flag, and then go. So I don't think I'll be putting this one on watch anytime soon, but yeah, also something like that I'll probably look at. And then that probably just goes there. And then, kind of just have something leading like that. Anyway, that's it basically, CAD Swiss. So yeah, USD CAD, phenomenal. I mean, we had this very, very good structure here, to be honest. That probably was just, yeah, it's one of the reasons why USD CAD is an amazing pair to trade. It's just, I could have read between the lines. I seen that. I would have taken that. And that's probably one of the only trades I would have taken a true risk entry on, which is, I guess it's just me. I mean, I guess even this trade would have been probably something that I probably would have, the end of it, just opted in for. Or even with a 40 pip stop loss, wouldn't be too bothered with that. And then I'd be running around about 6%. Yeah, and then I'll just manage locked in around about, I think at this point here, I think we're reaching a nearing. So yeah, nothing. I think larger flag territory, so I'll protect myself. I'll probably leave it at about 2.7, even though I'm leaving around about 3% on the table. It's okay. Just want to protect myself. I guess if I wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, but not in this area, but if I wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, probably about 4%, or just under. Probably just around about 3.96 or something like that. So yeah, USD CAD, definitely still looking at shorts on this one. I think, how it's selling off of this head and shoulders over here, definitely has potential to just probably sell off a little bit more. Target zone, probably just taking point up here to this point, take that point, drag that down here, add it to the neck. Yeah, so, looking at this potential sort of zone here, still a lot of room for us to move. So USD CAD's a solid pair. I think that's just one I'm just going to stay sharp with. If there's a structure that forms, that's really nice. 1, 2, 3, sort of bear flag. I'll look to get involved, but for now, I think I'm just going to stay out of it. Next one is EuroCAD. So EuroCAD's in a very valuable area now. So this was also a mistrade for me, but it was more so one that I actually saw in real time. Put it onto my trading view, just didn't want to execute it in live markets. So we had a three touch, which I think this is like typical for EuroCAD as well. You get a 1, 2, 3, and then you kind of just come in here and then you just push off. It's happened quite a few times that I've noticed as well. Not in the exact form of this, but that strong sort of momentum go. Um, tends to be, and it's same on the sell side. The sells are really, really nice on this as well, but I tend to see that push. So once the accumulation's been built and we've got everything we need, just push a little bit lower and push up high. So that's quite cool. And then we had continuation and we're gone. So that was a mistrade for around about, it's only about 10%. So it's not really a big deal. But I think, yeah, I think looking at that, there was definitely some opportunity to get involved for the long run. Probably trading onto that high, I probably would have been a little bit more aware, but I think that was the clear target zone once we broke this. So there was definitely potential to get involved even further. Bear in mind that was around about 23 pip stop loss, so perhaps maybe I could have squeezed a little bit more somewhere else to the market. But definitely that push away was really nice. And yeah, we saw that across the board with quite a lot of pairs as well. So yeah, Eurocad's been a pretty awesome pair. Next one's Euro Swiss. I don't really have anything for Euro Swiss, to be honest. I was kind of looking for this 1, 2, 3 push down, push back up. It's got a little bit more messy. It was one that I think I said in the SMB as well. Like if it does get messy, I'm just gonna not look at it anymore. And I think that's exactly what I did. So yeah, nothing to really look at on Euro Swiss at the moment. Probably after sort of re-analyzing it, I'll probably still be looking at this sort of 1, 2, 3. Just means I've just got to be a bit more patient. So yeah, I think looking at some probably some sort of structure forming something. I don't know. At the moment, I just don't think that there's any trade in there for me. So yeah, I'm not gonna force the market. And last but not least is crude oil. Now, crude oil was one of the most phenomenal instruments. After analyzing this pair time and time again, I've realized that I could actually just trade crude oil and scale to £1 million, honestly. Um, like I probably should just do that for fun, like just have a separate account and just trade crude oil with it. Because honestly, like once you actually get into the swings of things with crude, it's actually really nice. It's actually very similar to Euro USD, weirdly enough, um, in terms of just characteristics, in my opinion. I think there's just certain sort of price patterns, most recently during the past 2 years, that I've noticed that Euro USD and crude oil very similar in that light. But anyway, what I do like about this is just as I was forecasting on my Sunday market breakdown, I was looking at it coming down a little bit further, but it doesn't really matter. It's not supposed to be getting it perfect anyway. Um, so we had the 1, 2, 3 in here. I had the short, but unfortunately I got tagged out early. I was tagged out just around about here somewhere. I was just extra aggressive, and I think I took around about 2%. So, that it's okay. It is what it is. It was a phenomenal trade. I got in the perfect, not I wouldn't say perfect. I'll say I got into a very good area. I would say that a better area to have entered the market would have been over here anyway. Um, at the top over here, but doesn't really matter. And now we've been moving up pretty nicely. So when I did see this yesterday, I was more so interested now that when we had that push away, if this is continuation to the upside, we could actually be making our run for the third touch, which kind of gives me more of this sort of larger 1, 2, 3 sort of feel. So I'm more than interested now to see how we play out there. But we do have a potentially 1, 2, 3 on the table here. So if we come here, I'll still look at that override and see it as a push down on the flag there. But I'm more interested in this override now. And if we do push further, we've got more value zones. So pretty good. Really excited for next week now. I think there's so much on the table that, um, I think there's so many things that I've learned from this week and last week as well. So, um, yeah, it's trading's getting a lot more better as well for myself. And I feel like, if anybody's in a journey listening to this, don't give up, because when it gets really hard, you have to realize that it's not actually as hard as you think it is. It's only going to get easier and easier and easier. And if it's easier already, then you're not doing something right. Because I don't think trading should be easy. At no point should you already feel like you've got it, because the market's always changing. It's basically one of the most creative things I've ever come across, where there's no way you can tell exactly how something is going to play out, but you can forecast a whole bunch of different things. And if it matches, it matches. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, unfortunately, you weren't entirely wrong. You just unfortunately didn't forecast it um, close enough to what could have potentially happened. So, you have to kind of get loads of different increments of the parts of trading together, and then once you've put the puzzle together, you'll get much better. So, yeah, have a great week, and I'll be filming my Friday market breakdown shortly, and I'll post it up. So, thanks a lot. Bye.